Disruption is a game mode which trips up many players, especially newer ones. After countless missions of clearing through hordes of very similar enemies, the new objective can be quite a shock. You find yourself in a crowd of enemies looking for a single powerful unit whose only goal is to destroy the very conduit you're looting. So whether you're looking for how to find demolishers, advice on running the mission efficiently, or are just looking to understand how this mode even works, this is the video for you. I'm the Engineer, let's solve a practical problem. As ever, I'm going to start with the basics and scale it up from there. Disruption missions exist in a limited number of places, so that's Olympus on Mars, Ganymede on Jupiter, on Uranus, Laomedea on Neptune, Kappa on Sedna, Apollo on Lua, and Tamu on the Kuva Fortress. The objective of a disruption mission is pretty simple. You're there to raid the contents of conduits. They can only be opened by using the right key on them, each of white, red, cyan, and purple. The keys will drop from higher threat units, those being heavy units like heavy gunners and scrambus, as well as Eximus units. Once you got the key, pop it into the matching conduit, and a few things happen at once. First, a modifier is applied to the mission. Usually this is a negative modifier, such as giving enemies bonus damage or draining your energy. Sometimes it can be a positive though, such as a speed boost to you and your allies. Second, a timer is set on the conduit, which is the maximum time you need to defend it. And lastly, a Demolisher unit will spawn. These units are extra strong and are the only threat to the conduit. Nothing else can harm the conduit at all. If this Demolisher gets to the conduit, they'll play a charging animation and then destroy themselves and the conduit simultaneously. Your job is to make sure that doesn't happen. Either you keep the Demolisher away from the conduit until the timer runs out, or you kill the Demolisher unit. 99% of the time, you'll be killing them to succeed. A successful kill will instantly end the defense timer as well. Demolishers are not simple units, however. Their focus on destroying the conduit means that most of the time, they will not stop to fight you, instead barreling towards their objective with almost reckless abandon. To allow you to identify which unit is the actual threat, they make a clear and directional beeping sound once close to your location, and they're also marked with a typical enemy objective marker once they've gotten very close to you. However, Demolishers have very high adaptive damage reduction, so your usual weapons will feel worse than normal against them. To add on to this, Demolishers also come with a nullifying ability, able to disable Warframe powers close to them every few seconds. Be mindful of this when you get close to attack them, as all your bonuses can suddenly vanish. If you kill the Demolisher, or the timer runs out, the conduit will vanish and the UI will show that one is completed. If the mission modifier was positive, it'll remain until the end of the round, whereas if it was a negative one, then the modifier is cleared. If instead the Demolisher blows up the conduit, it's the other way around. A positive modifier will vanish, while the negative one will stick around. Now all you have to do to complete a round is defend just one of the 4 conduits. Success with any more conduits can increase the reward tier you have access to, and usually it makes life easier owing to fewer negatives being stacked against you. If however you fail all 4 conduits in a round, the mission is a complete failure, forfeiting all rewards entirely. The reward process for disruption is rather unique. Unlike most endless missions, you have some level of control over the reward you earn according to this table here. In a nutshell, more conduits defended means you access improved rewards. This does mean that if the specific reward you want is on the A list, you have to fail 1, 2, and then 3 conduits for the first, second, and third round in order to get those rewards. After the third round, you'll need to leave as it's no longer possible to get the A list rewards. That said, there's usually a more suitable way of obtaining those lower value rewards from other missions, so this normally isn't an issue. This way of handling rewards is very important for disruption, making it the best mission type for farming some relics, especially standard Axii relics, incentivizing you to stick it out as long as you can. Alright, so you know what disruption is now, and broadly speaking what you're doing and why. Let's look at how you can handle the mission more effectively. I'll split these tips into early game, aimed at players before the war with Inquest, mid game for more involved options once you have higher tier gear and quest progress, and then late game for focusing on improving efficiency, not just trying to actually succeed in the mission. Starting at the very bottom, my number 1 tip for the early game is just to improve your builds. I'm not being facetious here. Warframe is 90% a gear check and Disruption is no different. Upgrade to more powerful weapons, usually ones with a higher mastery rank, and make sure your weapons and mods are upgraded where you can. I've covered this in more detail on my video on top 10 tips for more damage. Even if you're not at the stage to be maxing out some 10-pip mods and investing form all over the shop, a little bit of sensible modding goes a long way. For example here, I'm using a Volt, Toncore and Lex setup. These are early game weapons and a literal starter frame. No former, no arcanes, no prime mods, not even a mod with more than 8 pips on it, all for demonstration purposes. Even then, it's enough to handle Sedler's Disruption mission, just about. Part of the key here is making sure the damage type matches the enemy you're facing and attack style that you are using. For example, using Corrosive for direct damage to ferrite armor and Radiation for direct damage to alloy armor. As a special note, the infested demolishers are all immune to viral procs, and half of them to viral damage entirely, meaning that gas damage is usually the way to go for the infested mission. For once, gas is actually relevant. Next step is to learn the routes of the map. See where enemies can come from to narrow down searches for demolishers. By nature of how Disruption works, demolishers have to cover a reasonable distance to get to the conduit. This means you can ignore any small dead-end rooms and instead focus on the few long routes that can lead to your location. A big help at this early stage is to just take it easy. You don't need to speedrun Disruption whilst you're new to it. Grab one key at a time and just focus on that demolisher. You only need to successfully defend one conduit to complete the mission and be one step closer to clearing the whole star chart. On the same track of taking it easy, bring some friends. This is a multiplayer game for a reason, so bring along some friends and clanmates to make the mission easier. As a team, you can cover more potential routes, deal more damage, and bring more abilities to help take down the demolishers. When you're still early game, why wouldn't you call in a bit of support? Now once you're into the mid game, you're unlocking various features and frames which will be very helpful in defeating demolishers. One of the biggest contributors to this are control abilities. For balance reasons, not all control abilities work on demolishers, but anything from this list will be some of the most effective choices. Some abilities are subsumable, allowing you to add them onto other warframes. Just be aware that the demolisher will frequently nullify your abilities, so be prepared to recast if needed. My preferred choice is the Operator Arcane Magus Lockdown. With a single quick dash, you'll freeze the demolisher and other nearby units in place for a short duration, making it a quick and powerful option. Whichever method you choose, stopping a demolisher from moving will give you a lot more time to work with and makes it a lot easier to land the shots to actually kill them. Now the primary way of telling where a demolisher is coming from is to listen out for them, but if for some reason you can't do that, you can instead stack enemy radar mods. Have your map open as you put in the key and watch for the enemy that spawns away from all the others are. Demolishers spawn vastly further away than normal enemies, so while the demolisher just looks like a normal enemy on the radar, you can quickly enough learn to spot the one that spawned in the wrong place. This works best in solo mode for some level of control over those enemy spawns. For this to work, you need a lot of enemy radar. At minimum 100 meters of enemy radar is needed for this to be useful, with more than that giving you extra opportunity to spot the demolisher. Two frames in particular can be a great help with this, Cora and Ivara. Cora's bonus comes from having an exalted companion, Vinari, who can also be modded with enemy radar to increase your range on top of your normal companion. For Ivara, she passively has extended enemy radar to give you as much hunting capacity as possible. Any frame however can still achieve this high enemy radar range with a suitable complement of mods. You're just going to need to stack that little bit more. It's because of this demand on mods or frames though that I put this into the mid game section. One thing you do need to be aware of though when using this approach is that enemy radar has a very limited vertical detection range. Because of this, you'll need to check multiple floors or levels on missions that have them to allow you to spot demolishers coming from somewhere above or below the conduit. Large ramped rooms or connecting corridors down some stairs can definitely get in the way of using this method. Another feature that will help handling demolishers that you'll unlock more and more of is defense stripping. Many demolishers come with serious amounts of armor, which can be a pain to bypass. Luckily, there are various means to suppress or remove that armor, which will make killing Demolisher a lot easier, such as for example Nick's Psychic Bolt, Banshee's Sonic Fracture Augment, or the Shattering Impact mod on a melee. While it's not necessary to defense strip a Demolisher, it can be the difference if your weapons and frames aren't yet maxed out. Once you're at the stage that you're implementing most or all of these tips so far, you'll be tracking down Demolishers quickly, locking them in place, tearing away their defenses, pummeling them with high power weaponry, and high-fiving your teammates for a job well done. That means it's time to look at late game options for efficiency improvement. The very first thing you can do is keep heavy units alive between rounds. Heavy and Xmas units are the ones which drop the conduit keys, so by keeping them alive between rounds, you can get a key straight away once the next round starts. It's a small detail, but one that speeds up rounds noticeably. Second, improve your efficiency by activating more keys at once. Once you're at the level you can confidently handle Demolishers, activating more conduits at once will allow you to speed up the rounds considerably. Sure, it means more bad guys to deal with in the same time window, possibly on different parts of the map, but you're a hard-hitting master of disruption by this stage. Hunt them down. Or, rely on your friends to cover the extra spawns. Thirdly, for additional efficiency, you can hold keys over to following rounds when duplicate keys have been dropped. You can do this either by holding one with your frame and one with your operator puts the one key in, while your frame holds the other for the next round. Or, if you've got friends with you, your allies can hold the extras. Any keys left on the ground will vanish when the matching conduit is activated, but held ones do not disappear, so you can use those immediately in the next round. And then finally, go ahead and sacrifice some defensive options to focus more on speed. It's easy to get carried away focusing on defense as you progress in Warframe. Believe me, I know how incredible it feels to have a Warframe tank basically anything a mission can throw at you. With that said, most of the time a good offense is better than more defense. Being able to quickly dispatch of normal and Demolisher enemies will reduce the amount of time you spend taking damage, and so focusing more on movement options and clearance speed will directly improve your survival and the rate at which you get rounds done. Being quicker at dispatching of normal and Demolisher enemies means less time spent taking damage, so focusing more on movement options and clearance speed will directly improve your survival and the rate at which you get rounds done. That is the endgame of Disruption, min-maxing your strategy to get those maximum rewards as fast as possible. Oh, speaking of maximum rewards, the drop tables can actually be a little bit funky in that area. On Uranus and Lua, the rewards offered on tables B and C are almost identical. That's Neo Relics on both tables for Uranus, and Axi Relics on both tables for Lua. The difference is, reward table C includes a chance of a universal medallion in both locations, with Lua's C reward also including a Lua lens blueprint. Usually speaking, these are not desirable items to receive. A universal medallion is only worth 1000 standing with any syndicate, aside from the Conclave. Surely then, it would be better to run rotation B rewards for the higher drop chance, right? Well, on Uranus, focusing reward table B means 5.4% more relics per round, and exactly the same proportional increase in a specific relic per round. However, this means you have to let Demolishers successfully blow up conduits in rounds 3 and above to get that bonus. Given that you'd always kill a Demolisher sooner than it would have blown up, it's not worth slowing down the round for this increase in drop chance when you could just, do the round faster for more frequent rewards. Sure, you'll get the occasional medallion, but you're getting everything that much faster. On Lua, focusing reward table B means 15% more relics per round. This is much more significant for sure, but once again, still requires you to let Demolishers through multiple times over. Not only are you waiting on them to do their business, you're also subjecting yourself to worse modifiers throughout the remainder of the round, every round. So the most efficient choice on these two missions, going for B rewards or C rewards, is going to come down to your ability to hunt down and kill Demolishers. The faster you are, the less benefit there is for going for the B reward despite the increased drop rates. Quite frankly, if you're at the stage where you're worrying about optimizing drop rates, you should already be speeding through this mission. At that point, going for the C reward just makes sense. Any less efficient at killing, and it's not the drop rates holding you back. So before you go worrying about trying to play the system for more relics, your focus first should be on improving your mods, weapons, abilities, and tactics. Or in less polite terms, get good. Okay, that wraps it up on this disruption guide. Disruption is one of my very favourite game modes in Warframe and one we play frequently over on my live streams on Twitch, so definitely check that out if you want to see these tips in action. That's all from me for now though, so as always, find keys, hunt beeps, and fight well, Tenno.